Hey, welcome back, everybody. Rams up here. Mark and Scott Richmond coming at you. And Scott reached out to me and he wants to play GM for a day, and we're going to give him a platform to do just that. How you doing, Scott?
Doing great, Mark. Great day to talk Rams football.
Yeah, now you were telling me one of the Rams websites, the folks on the website play around with this a lot. Is it Rams on Demand?
Yeah, ramsondemand.com. They tend to do mock drafts, but tend to do it not as a simulation, but as a here's the players I think that help the Rams. This is where I think they're going to be picked based on, um, popular locations in the draft. Um, and so forth. And they tend to cover everything regarding free agents also, salary cap, what can you fit in inside the salary cap, who are you going to let go to create more room,
Yeah.
etc. So I
So
think
in
it's a
one
great way.
day, so in the next half hour, we are going to cut some players. We're going to make a couple trades, actually just one trade. One of them's already happened.
Yeah,
And we're going to do some restructuring. And then we're going to share who Scott drafted, a bunch of draft day trades as well. So a
correct.
lot to cover here. And I put this to Scott, sent me all his information. I put it together as best I could. Hopefully I don't have any mistakes here. I think it's pretty close. But Scott will walk through the details. Let's get going. So we're calling this Scott's GM for a day. And the first thing you wanted to do was identify the priorities. So you feel like these are the five priorities that, as general manager of the Los Angeles Rams,
Hmm.
you huddled with Sean McVay, and these are the five things you're trying to get done today.
Yeah, I think as a preface to it all that the Rams were just a couple of plays away from making it to the NFC Championship. A couple of position groups that I thought about it that needed to be upgraded would be that, first of all, our D line, it's very close to being elite. Um, I think it's maybe missing one more rusher, and especially a nose tackle that can help in the run game and protect those inside linebackers. Um, the offensive line, I think, needs to be shored up in the middle for pass protection. I think as well as the Rams performed last season and as many games they won, and considering the offensive production, I think pass protection up the middle was a sore spot and needs to be improved. And I'm not saying to completely replace Bo Limmer, but I think you need some competition and somebody in there that can help solidify that. In addition, the offense is going to need more diverse weapons and more speed. Back to the defense, the inside linebacker group needs better pass coverage and better range for stopping the long runs. And the cornerback group needs more size and speed, in my opinion.
Okay, for those of you on the podcast with audio only, I'll rehash this real quickly. Number one, a nose tackle to help in run defense, protect the inside linebackers. Number two, better inside pass protection. And I think that is the only shortcoming, noticeable shortcoming of this offensive line is perhaps Bo Limmer's in pass protection. And we saw that in the championship game, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need more speed on offense, not the championship game, but the divisional round game with the Eagles. We need more speed on offense. And I think Sean McVay alluded to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that could also be why the Rams retained Tutu Atwell. Inside linebackers that can cover. Hey, we need inside linebackers, period. Right now, I think we have two on our roster as of March 12th when the new league year starts,
Mm-hmm.
and then cornerbacks with more size and speed. Fair enough. And I have some questions about some players that recently became available at nose tackle or defensive line, anyways. Maybe not true nose tackles. And so maybe I'll throw those names at you when we get there. So let's move on to cap space right now. 51.8 million as of, well, today's the 8th. So as of yesterday, hasn't changed, I'm sure. Does not include Lyric Jackson's numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're assuming 19 million a year, but we don't really know for sure, right?
Yeah, we think it's going to be in that range. This was from the sources overthecap.com. It was 51.8 as of yesterday, and Larix Jackson's he's not listed there, so his cap hit for this year is not included in this dollar amount. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a dicey situation when you're going to these sources right now because the new league year has not started. So some of the numbers won't post perhaps till March 12th. I think that's how it's going to work. Um, so we'll see how that plays out. What do
Okay.
we have next? You are
Some cuts.
suggesting some cuts. Three players you want to cut. Man, you're being pretty harsh here, Scott, but have at it.
Yeah. Uh, Tight end Colby Parkinson. Don't think he was very productive. I really don't think he's going to be part of the plans moving forward. If he's cut post June 1st designation, they'll save 5.2 million. I think Darius Williams, due to his age, I think the Rams are going to keep the roster younger. I think they're going to let him go, savings of 5 million. And in addition, Darian Kendrick would save 3.3 million right there. And last thing to note, we witnessed the release of Trey Tomlinson.
Right.
His salary, I think, was so low and near the bottom 51 that I don't even think it affected the salary cap. So there was no need to note anything there.
Yeah, and the 49ers claimed him. It's always interesting when a divisional rival claims a player, and we did the same to them. It
Mm-hmm.
was Cody Schrader was an undrafted rookie that signed with them, and the Rams picked him up when the 49ers waived him, and he stuck on the roster on the 53 man all year. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be, best wishes to Trey Tomlinson, but never happy to see a divisional rival sign an ex-Ram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so three Rams are cut, two cornerbacks. So pretty thin cornerback group, but I think you're going to address that here. First, we'll go through a couple of trades. The Cooper Cup trade. This is first a trade that's already happened. Jonah Jackson to the Bears for pick
Mm-hmm.
number 197 overall. That's a sixth round pick, a cap savings of 10 million. And
Yes.
tell us about this Cooper Cup trade you're proposing.
Yeah, there were rumors that, with the Jaguars now having Liam Cohen as their new head coach, and recently James Gladstone, the past Rams director of scouting, being now their general manager, I think they're wanting to bring Cooper Cup in um, to help bolster their lineup and also bring some experience in for the offense that Cohen wants to run. So that kind of makes sense. Cooper going to the Jags for a fifth round pick, number 143 overall.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I don't have it in front of me, and I should have had it in front of me. I think the Jags have the cap space to accommodate that. And what a team like the Jags, Colin Cowherd talks about this very often. Sometimes some teams need impact players to get them over the top. Teams like the Steelers and the Packers, for example. Other teams need a culture shift, and that would be teams
Mm-hmm.
like the Jags, for example. And Cooper Cup would be perfect for that. Now, I don't know if Cooper Cup would be happy going to the Jags because I think it would mean his opportunities of getting to another Super Bowl are pretty slim. But if
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to dedicate himself just to helping a team get pointed in the right direction, it'd be a win for the Jags for sure, and a win for Cooper Cup being part of that. But so we have $12.5 million savings with the Cup to Jags proposed trade for that,
Mm-hmm.
um, the fourth pick in the fifth round, and then another significant savings for Jonah Jackson there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing else to note is, let's say Cooper Cup, if the Jags do not pull off a trade, Cooper's probably going to most likely be cut, and his cap savings will be a little bit less than the 12. The Rams will have to eat a little bit more, have a little bit more dead money, and he might only be about a 7 or 8 million savings on this year's cap.
All right. And then we're going to restructure Kevin Dotson's contract and a savings of 7.6 million.
Yes, I'm kind of listing this as, this is an option if they were to run into, they obviously have a lot more space than they have more space, which I've outlined here, then this might actually be needed. But he's somebody that I would think about doing it with because he's most likely going to be on the roster the next couple of seasons. So um, there's value there because even if you push the money, you're basically pushing some of the money that you owe him. You're kicking the can down the road a little bit, and at least in the next season or two, he'll still be on the roster, uh, providing production as a player, as opposed to him just all of a sudden he retires and now you're stuck holding the bag with all the dead money.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made for kicking the can down the road because the Rams are positioned, I think, to make a run, to make a Super Bowl run, and I don't think they need to make gigantic moves necessarily. Bring in, the Von Millers of the world again, but anything they can do to create a little bit of cap space to fill the remaining holes on this roster, I'm all for that for sure.
Yes.
Okay, I got a bunch of free agent acquisitions listed here.
Mm-hmm.
We can go through these one at a time. Real quickly, I'll let you walk through it, Scott.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First two are the two we already know about: Alaric Jackson signing for 3 years, 2 for 1 year. Um, as far as cornerbacks, I'd like to bring back Akello Witherspoon. I think he only earned 1.5 million this past season, but I think his play in big games last year, I think, is worth signing him to 4 to 5 millions average per year. And another cornerback that I really like, who would come from Carolina, would be Mike Jackson Jr. He was originally drafted by Seattle, and he was traded to Carolina recently, and he's a free agent this year. So he'd be coming off his rookie contract. He's young, very aggressive corner, can play both man coverage and zone. Good tackler. His valuation on over the cap was about 8 million for last year, so Rams would be giving him a slight pay increase and for about 10 million average per season. Inside linebacker, most people really liked Bond from the Eagles, and I don't disagree, but we know that just in the last day or so he's been re-signed already. But his teammate Oren Burks, who was brought in from the 49ers, he subbed in when I'm trying to remember one of their linebackers who went down. Trotter, I think is his name.
Right, right.
He went down. Oren Burks he was lights out at the end of the season for them. Um, and he would be cheaper. So, I mean, I believe he only earned, I think, 2.5 million last year. So the Rams could give him a big pay increase, let's say to 7 million average per year. And he would be a big shot in the arm for the middle linebacking group. If you talk about PFF grades, I mean, Burks and what was his teammate again? Bond.
Bond,
Yeah,
Zach Bond.
I mean
Yeah.
those were two of the top 5 rated cornerbacks per PFF. So you're getting a pretty good player
Linebackers, you mean?
at inside linebacker. Yes.
Right.
Moving on to offensive line, center Josh Myers, who comes from the Packers. He's a much higher rated pass protector than what the Rams have had recently. Excuse me. His average per year with the Packers was about 2.5 million. So if he hits free agency, he's obviously going to need a payday. So I think for 5 million per year, he could come in and compete against Limmer and hopefully win out the starting job. Next, wide receiver room. I think the Rams should bring back Tyler Johnson. Due to his size and speed, I think he's 6'2", 214. Has great speed, knows the offense, and I think he could step in and be that same backup that he has been. He could easily compete for wide receiver 4, or be that guy who's possibly inactive sometimes and come in and play special teams every now and then. Um, outside free agent Diami Brown from the Commanders. Um, I followed him when he was at North Carolina 4 years ago, and I had mocked him to the Rams 4 years ago. Really liked his outside speed as an outside receiver. Um, really makes a lot of, catches a lot of bombs for 40 to 50 yards. High average per catch. Uh, he's just finishing his rookie deal, and I think he could be signed for about 5 million average per year. And last, upgrading the defensive line. I think we can let with this particular example mock off season. We're not really bringing back Laurel Murchison or um, Neville Gallimore. And I think Armand Watts would be an upgrade. He's a very highly productive pass rusher. He rushed the passer from inside and also kind of an outside position, more of a defensive end. But he did both at a fairly high rate. He was injured at the end of last year, and he would be questionable for training camp, whether he'll be ready to start or not. But he would be. You could get him on the cheap for about 2.5 million average per season, and that should really solidify the Rams' pass rush.
Now, he's not a run stopping nose tackle by any means, though, right?
No, this would be you're filling in the guys you lost in free agency as kind of your designated pass rusher. I'm not going to. I wouldn't be asking him to be in there to play a majority of the snaps in the game, probably a minority amount, and probably on obvious passing downs.
So
Filling in.
you see Josh Myers as I think if we're signing Josh Myers, the
Mhm.
hope would be that he relegates to Bo Limmer to a backup role, which would be okay. If
Mhm.
Bo Limmer is your backup guard center, I feel pretty good about that group. And Josh Myers is only 26 years old. I just checked.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And to rehash here for those on the podcast, we're basically retaining four Rams, Lyric Jackson and Tutu Atwell. Those are already on the books, and then Akilla Witherspoon and Tyler Johnson. And then we're bringing in some external guys, cornerback Mike Jackson, linebacker Oren Burks, wide receiver Diami Brown, and defensive tackle, defensive end Armand Watts. And your calculations is after all of that, we have $30.4 million in cap space heading into the draft.
Yeah. Should give the team some flexibility as to possibly pick up more possible players between the end of the draft and the start of training camp. Gives them
Okay.
flexibility.
What do we have next? I'm not even sure. Okay, we got a bunch of trades, and I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on this, but Scott executed some trades.
Mm-hmm.
Number 26 to the Chiefs for their 31st pick overall in the first round, and number 95. And then you traded number 90 and number 100. Those are our two third round picks to
Yes.
jump back up to number 69. That was with the Patriots. And then you traded 126 for the Ravens. The Ravens packaged number 136 and number 205.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 136 and number 143, moving back up to 111. That was a trade with the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of moving parts here. And then we
Yeah.
packaged 192 and 204 to the Panthers to go back up to 164.
Yes.
So, not necessarily referencing these trades at all, but the one thing the Rams, Sean McVay and Les Snead can do, I talked about this once before, and I think it's got to count for something. They have so many connections across the league now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys that they can pick up at the phone and have conversation. I mean, I know you can call up any GM, but when there's got to be a difference between calling up the Chicago Bears GM and calling up Raheem Morris or the Jags new general manager or Zach Taylor or
Mm-hmm.
Matt LaFleur, all these guys that are so close to Sean McVay. So I think the Rams are probably it's probably easier for them to pull the trigger on trades than some other
Mhm.
teams because of all of their connections across the league.
Mm.
Maybe I'm overstating that, but it's got to count for something. So
Yeah,
next up,
I just wanted to recap that really quick. You're basically still with 8 picks. You've just moved them around a little bit. You've moved some of them up, and you've kind of shortened the gaps between the fourth and the sixth round,
right?
between the first and the third, etc. So
Okay. And let's see. And you use the draft value chart to make sure these are re realistic trades, I assume.
yeah, I've used kind of a consensus amongst 8 or 9 different sources that these are players that I think will be available approximately. I could be off by 10 spots, maybe 20, but players do drop. Some go higher. So I think this is realistic.
Okay, so for that, with that first pick, number 31 overall, one of your priorities you identified was nose tackle, and you went right at that problem and
Mhm.
drafted defensive tackle Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, 6'4", 335. And it's very likely he won't be there. He could go much earlier. So you identified a backup plan,
Mhm.
Tyleek Williams out of Ohio State, 6'3", 330. I would suspect one of them would be there, more likely
Mhm.
Williams. So tell us what you
Yeah.
like about these two guys.
Yeah, Williams' consensus is anywhere from 38 to 50 in the range. So he might be a little bit of a reach at 31, but you're getting a similar player that can really anchor there at the nose and not be pushed around with double teams or dual blocks. It'll hopefully keep those guards that chip away at the nose tackle from jumping from that block up to the inside linebackers. They'll have to stay and hold their ground for a fraction of seconds longer and help out our run defense.
Okay. Um, I like that. I like that approach. It's as you said in your opening up here, defensive tackle, linebacker, and some big cornerbacks. We addressed the cornerback issue in the free agency. We did not address nose tackle, so we could take care of it in the first round. And I think either one of these guys would be a big lift for this defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we go to number 69 overall,
Mm-hmm.
cornerback Darian Porter out of Iowa State. And he's a big, long cornerback, 6'2", 194. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's a great big, long, rangy cornerback with good speed, length. He has decent production in college. He was a 2 or 3 year starter, and he just really killed the combine. His athletic scores, he had an athletic score of 92, which is um, you're up in the top 5% of the players at your position group. He ran a 4.3 flat 40. He has a 1.59 10-yard split, 10-foot 11-inch broad jump. So it's explosive. 6.713 cone, which is a pretty high score. That tells you he has really great change of direction, and also a 4.04 20-yard shuttle, which is very similar. He has experience playing both press man coverage and zone, and he's a willing tackler. When the running plays go wide, he's not afraid to stick his nose in and wrap up.
There seems to be a disproportionate number of players coming out of the two Iowa schools recently. Just,
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State and Iowa players popping up a lot more than I remember. It seems like. Now, okay,
Yes.
number 95 overall, tight end Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, 6'5", 250 pounds. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us about this tight end. What do you like about him?
Well, first of all, we're going to try to make Coach McVay happy. We know that the last couple of seasons he's been trying to land a difference maker at that position. Um, Elijah Arroyo, when you watch his tape, he runs effortlessly like a wide receiver. Has nice long strides. Um, I think he would upgrade the speed in the tight end room. Um, Good production last year, and he just got better as the year went along. He does have a history of knee injuries, and he did participate in the Senior Bowl, but um, near the end of the Senior Bowl, he re-aggravated one of his knees, and he did not get a chance to run any of the drills or run a 40 at the combine. So at 95, I'm presuming he's gonna slip to 95. I think he would probably be in the low end of the second round, top end of the third. So I'm presuming he's gonna slip about 20 spots.
Um, all right, let's move on to the next picks here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have at number 111 overall, quarterback Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, 6'3", 220 pounds. Is he the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford?
I think there's a good chance he could be. Yes, I think he's the I think he's the mobile quarterback that Snead has been alluding to. Um, he is still a great pocket passer. He's not a running quarterback, but he does have wheels. Um, he can run. I didn't list his timed speed, but on tape you can see that if it's second or third down and everybody's covered, he can get on his horse and pick up the first down quite easily. So he only runs if he has to, and he's just a great pocket passer. I mean, he led the FBS this season with almost 4,800 yards, 34 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, had a 79 quarterback rating.
They
Um,
certainly threw the ball around a lot there at
yeah,
Syracuse this year. That I know.
yeah, and I think he just has all the tools what the Rams are looking for, and he's not one of the top end guys that you're going to have to use a first or second round pick on. 111, I'm kind of hoping that he slips this far. He could go as high as the late third round, but
Yeah, if there's a shot, he could be a very good NFL quarterback. Why not? Take a flyer on him.
mhm.
And number 164 overall, you took a running back that I identified when I was talking a few weeks ago about change of pace running backs with speed. That could
Mhm.
really change it up a little bit different from Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. And that's
Mhm.
Brashard Smith out of SMU, 5'11", 196. So
Yes.
talk about him a little bit.
Yeah. Rashard Smith, he's a converted wide receiver. He grew up in Florida. I think he went to University of Florida and then transferred to SMU, where he was converted to running back. Um, he has 4.4 speed, so he has legit speed to take the ball the distance on any given running play. And in the passing game, he'd be a nightmare for linebackers to cover out of the backfield. Um, and for his size, he's a pretty competent pass protector. Um, an example that I can think of where they could really use him is if they were to come out in a 12 personnel with two tight ends and one running back. Um, you could put him in motion and send him out as a receiver with the other two wide receivers and one of your tight ends, and then you could leave one of your tight ends for pass protection. So they have six protecting Stafford with four out in the routes, and you got a guy with 4.4 speed probably being covered by a safety or a linebacker in that case. So it really gives McVay some options on passing downs.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a running back like that, right? You probably
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to Todd Gurley, who was not a change of pace running back, but a running back that could just blaze through a defense.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be a welcome addition. And Eric Dickerson School, a running back from Eric Dickerson School.
Mm-hmm.
That's some good karma there.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. At number 197, you took a wide receiver out of Arkansas, another Razorback.
Yes.
I'm going to let you say his name because I may butcher it. Tell us
Yeah.
about your selection here.
Yeah. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla from Arkansas. He's 6'4", 212. Didn't have a whole lot of production. His teammate at Arkansas, Andrew Armstrong, Armstrong led the SEC in receiving yards this past year and is probably going to go much higher. has has received more of the accolades, but uh, Tesla is a great athlete. He tested, he knocked the socks off the combine at 6'4", 212. He ran a 4.4340, had a 1.51 10-yard split, which means he's quick along with the speed. 39.5-inch vertical, 10'9" broad. He's explosive. 6.853 cone. He also has the great change of direction. Um, 15 reps on the bench press. So he has the frame that you can put him in those tight formations where Cup and Naku are famous for, being able to block and or run their routes from those, let's say, slot positions on the field. He could come in and be pretty much play any one of the positions, whether it's in tight on the formation, closer to a slot, or out wide like an X receiver. He has the size and speed. So I just think he's a great under the radar guy who really tested well at the combine.
Yeah, we're into the 6th round here. So your Rams have had some success in this part of the draft for sure. And then at number 203, you picked an inside linebacker. I assume he's an inside linebacker. Jackson
Yes.
Woodard out of UNLV, 6'2", 234 pounds.
Yeah, Jackson was the he was the winner of the Defensive Player of the Year in his conference. He's a transfer from Arkansas. Um, he is just great in pass coverage. He has excellent instincts, ability to read the quarterback, whether they're playing man or zone coverage. He's okay versus the run, but he needs to improve his ability to get off blocks and choose the correct lane to, shut down running lanes. Though he was a great YouTube video to watch, is he was a tackling machine against Boise State when he went up against Ashton Genty. Someone made a YouTube video that's just highlights of him making tackles on Ashton Genty. I don't know if he was like something like 10 tackles in that game. It really showed his ability to get after a high quality running back. So I think he's undervalued here and would be an awesome addition to that inside linebacker group.
So we got 2 players from Arkansas joining Bo Lemmer, and then an Arkansas transfer also coming in. So there are going to be a lot of Razorback banners in the locker room, maybe, but that's fine. Now, your last pick was another tight end, number 205 yes. Overall, Joshua Simon out of South Carolina, 6'4", 242 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he kind of comes out of left field, but after the combine, I was just shaking my head at how well some of these guys performed. Didn't know where he came from. I hadn't really heard of him before, but considering the fact that the Rams don't sign Hunter Long,
and you've already released Colby Parkinson.
Colby Parkinson, right? It really only leaves
Higbee and Davis Allen.
Yeah, Davis Allen and Higbee. Davis Allen, I'm not excited about. I think he's just going to have to probably stay as a backup because the speed of Simon and Arroyo just upgrades the tight end room. I think you could throw screen passes to these guys and they can get upfield and won't get caught from behind like some of our older tight ends have been.
Yeah, and Higbee, he's got to be on his last leg there. It appears the Rams are going to keep him around for 2025, but they have to start looking for their next tight end. And if it's not Davis Allen, like I say, Davis Allen he rounds out the tight end room, but he's not a guy that you can count on as your number one. I don't think we can. Hey, it'd be great if he proved us wrong. So adding 2 tight ends, 2 young tight ends, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. So we're rehashing the entire draft here. I'll just walk through it real fast for those of you on the podcast, especially. We took defensive tackle Kenneth Grant with a possibility. We had a backup plan for Williams out of Ohio State if Grant's not there. Cornerback Darian Porter, a long tackling machine, can very versatile. When I say tackling machine from a cornerback perspective, he's not afraid to tackle, as Scott said. Can play all different types of coverage. Tight end Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, quarterback Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, running back Brashard Smith out of SMU, some speed to the running back room there. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla, if I'm saying
Mhm.
that right, out of Arkansas. Linebacker Jackson Woodard out of UNLV, and tight end Joshua Simon out of South Carolina. Now, if I was to offer a criticism, and I'm going to be gentle here because
Mhm.
I've done a bunch of these, and it's tough. It's really tough. You can't have everything. You just can't address everything you want to address. But the one thing I would be concerned about after all these moves and the draft, and again, you can't have everything, you can't necessarily
Mhm.
address every need, is the backup tackles.
Right.
Alaric Jackson, Rob Havenstein. After that, we reinforce the interior.
Mm.
Check that box. No problem with that. Is Warren McClendon and KT Leviston and AJ or Curry, are they going to be our guys, our backup tackles, or am I missing something? Or hey, maybe there's going to be some leftover money there. Maybe you go find a free agent, second level tackle, in just to keep in reserve so that you're not pressing the panic button if one of our starters go down. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. It's a position that was not able to be addressed in this particular example, but that extra cap space does allow you to pick up a street free agent, between May and early August.
Yeah. And
So,
the problem is if tackles are really hard, I think, to scout. And usually, if you're drafting a tackle in the first or second round, you're probably going to get it right. Although guys like Greg Robinson are the exception, number
mhm,
two pick in the draft, and he kind of washed out. And you get into that fourth and fifth round. Are you really doing yourself any good by drafting a tackle on that at that spot? But hey, the Rams have been done really well identifying interior offensive linemen, wide receivers, and such late in the draft. Maybe they can do the same with a tackle. Maybe there's a tackle they can
mhm,
grab in the fifth round or sixth round or something.
right.
But that would be the one thing I'm concerned about. And so, what about? We didn't talk about Jimmy G here.
Mhm,
Um, Are you thinking Kyle McCord? He certainly has the experience at the college level. You
mhm.
think Kyle McCord and Stetson Bennett are battling for the number two quarterback position?
Yeah, that's the way I would do it. I would keep Stetson Bennett, add Kyle McCord, let them battle for QB2, and I would just I would let Garoppolo walk.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Stetson Bennett. We know absolutely nothing. We really don't. You can't go by that preseason. You really can't. At least I
Mhm,
don't put much weight into it. It's preseason. They're learning the ropes, learning the offense,
mhm,
learning the speed of the game. You could only Sean McVay knows perhaps what the future
mhm,
lies, what lies ahead for Stetson Bennett if he's going to be an able backup quarterback. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
mhm,
But Kyle McCord would be a guy that what I know about him, he'd you know probably be ready to step in as a backup for a couple of games
mhm.
midway through the season because he does have tons of experience at the college level.
Yeah, he
And
got
Stetson
experience.
Bennett won a couple of national championships too, right? So
Yeah.
okay, any final words?
Mm, I can't think of any. I think this really solidifies the positions that I outlined in the preface. So I'd be pretty happy if the Rams were able to draft all these players. I'd be jumping up and down.
Yeah, and especially the two guys at the top there, that might be enough. And if Jackson Woodard came through as a linebacker adding him to Kenneth Grant and Darian Porter, this defense would be really, really good.
Mhm.
So what we're going to do, as I mentioned before we started recording, we're going to have that mock draft on the live stream mock draft on Monday night. So you're welcome to jump on in the chat room there and help us make a pick or two. Your insight will be invaluable. So look forward to you joining us for that if you're available.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Scott.
All right,
Scott,
Mark.
yeah, your GM for a day has come to a close. You're done. You can clock out and go
Okay.
enjoy go enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Okay, I got to go do chores now. Oh, well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Scott.
All right, Mark. Peace out.
Okay. Bye.